In April of 2004, a 45-year-old woman in Melbourne sat down on the floor of her bedroom with a yellowed paperback her daughter had just handed her. The book was almost 100 years old. The man who wrote it had been dead for 93 of those years. He died poor, and what that woman did over the next 3 years would gross hundreds of millions of dollars. And the part of her story almost nobody tells is that she didn't just read the book. She did exactly what it told her to do. The book is called The Science of Getting Rich. It was written in 1910 by a man named Wallace Wattles. About 100 pages, plain cover, small print, and for over a century now, every couple of decades, somebody picks it up, somebody desperate, somebody at the end of something, somebody who has nothing left to try. They read it. They actually do what it tells them to do, and their lives change in ways they can't always explain. Napoleon Hill read it and built Think and Grow Rich on its foundation. Earl Nightingale read it and turned it into the first spoken word recording in history to sell over 1 million copies. And in 2004, that woman in Melbourne read it, and we're going to come back to her in a minute. But first, I want to tell you about somebody who never read this book in her life, and who, without knowing it, did almost everything inside it, line by line. It's 1998, Atlanta, Georgia. A 27-year-old woman named Sara Blakely is getting ready for a party in front of her bedroom mirror. She's wearing cream-colored slacks. The line of her underwear is showing through. Her open-toed sandals mean she can't wear regular pantyhose without the toes sticking out. So she sits down on the edge of her bed. She picks up a pair of fabric scissors and she cuts the feet off the pantyhose. She puts them on. The pants look perfect. And as she's standing there in front of her own reflection, she has a thought. Not a business thought, just a small, almost annoyed one. Why doesn't this exist as a product? Sara Blakely has no fashion industry experience. She's never sewn a piece of clothing in her life. No business degree, no investors, no industry contacts. What she has is $5,000 in savings and a job selling fax machines door to door. By every external measure, she is a fax machine salesperson. That's the trajectory. But the next morning, she sits down at her kitchen table with a yellow legal pad and starts writing. Not a business plan, a description, what the product looks like, what it feels like, who wears it, how that woman feels about herself when she puts it on. And then, at the very top of the page, she writes one sentence. This product is going to be on Oprah's Favorite Things. In 1998, Oprah's Favorite Things is the single most powerful endorsement in American consumer culture. Sara has no product, no company, no industry contacts. She writes the sentence anyway, puts the legal pad in a drawer, goes back to selling fax machines on Monday. What she does over the next 2 years is strange. She keeps her job during the day, but every night after work, she goes to a Barnes & Noble in Atlanta, sits in the corner of the business and reference section on the floor, and teaches herself patent law from textbooks. She can't afford a patent attorney, so she becomes one. On the carpet of a chain bookstore, for more than a year, when she finally has a draft of her own patent, she calls every hosiery mill in North Carolina, every one. Then she gets in her car and drives up there. She walks into the mills, 27 years old, in heels and a business suit, with a prototype she stitched together at her kitchen table. Every single mill says no. One of them tells her, plainly, that nobody has asked for this, that women don't actually want what she's describing. They only think they do. And here is where most stories like this end. With a young woman, broke, no industry experience, getting walked out of every room she tries to enter. But 2 weeks after one of the rejections, the phone rings. The mill owner who said no, his daughters had overheard him talking about Sara's visit at the dinner table that week. They told him plainly that it was the smartest idea they had ever heard. He calls her back. He agrees to make a sample run for her, 2,000 units, out of his own pocket, not because he believes in the product, he says, because his daughters wouldn't stop bringing it up. Sara now has 2,000 units of a product that does not exist anywhere else in the world. She also has no buyer, no store, no marketing budget, so she does something that on paper makes no sense at all. She picks up the phone and calls Neiman Marcus in Dallas, cold. She gets the buyer for the hosiery department on the line, tells her she has a product that will change her customers' lives. The buyer agrees to 10 minutes. Sara flies to Dallas, walks into the meeting in her best black suit. 3 minutes in, the buyer is looking at her watch. Sara can feel the meeting slipping out from under her, so she stops, and she says, "Will you come to the women's room with me?" The buyer stares at her. Sara repeats the question. The buyer, more out of curiosity than anything else, agrees. In the women's restroom of the Neiman Marcus corporate office, Sara Blakely changes clothes, first into the cream slacks without Spanx, then into the same slacks with Spanx underneath. She watches the buyer's face the second time. The buyer places an order for 7 Neiman Marcus stores before they walk back to the office. 2 years later, on a regular Tuesday afternoon, Sara's phone rings. It's a producer from Oprah's production company. Spanx has been selected as one of Oprah's favorite things for the holiday season of the year 2000. Sara hangs up the phone. She walks into her bedroom. She opens the drawer where she had put the yellow legal pad 2 years and 4 months earlier. She reads the sentence she had written at the top of the first page, and she starts to cry. In 2012, Forbes named her the youngest self-made female billionaire in the world. She had built a billion-dollar company, and she had never spent a single dollar on advertising. Now hold Sara's story in your mind, because what she did, without ever having heard of Wallace Wattles, without ever having read his 100-year-old book, is exactly what that book says to do. Line by line, hold a clear mental image of what you want. Be specific. Write it down. Refuse the world's voice when it tells you the thing doesn't exist or that nobody wants it. Act on what's in front of you today with the resources you actually have. Give every person you transact with more in real value than you take from them. Be grateful. Keep going. That's the book. That's most of it. And now I want to take you back to that bedroom in Melbourne, because Rhonda Byrne, the night her daughter handed her the book, she didn't have what Sara Blakely had. Sara had a product idea and a yellow legal pad. Rhonda had nothing. It's 2004. Rhonda Byrne is 45 years old. She is a television producer in Melbourne. She has built a small production company, and the year she is having is the worst of her life. Her father, who she has loved more than almost anyone, has just died, sudden, in his sleep. Her business is financially collapsing. Her relationship is ending. Her relationship with her oldest daughter is strained almost to the breaking point. She owes money she can't pay back. Her doctor has put her on antidepressants and told her gently that things will feel different in time. One afternoon, her daughter Haley comes home, sits down on the edge of her mother's bed, and puts a small yellowed paperback into her hands. "Read this, Mum." Rhonda doesn't want to read it. She wants to sleep. She wants the day to be over. But her daughter sits there. So Rhonda, mostly to make her daughter feel better, opens the book. She reads it that afternoon. She reads it that evening. She doesn't put it down. By the time she finishes it for the first time, the room is dark, and she hasn't turned on a light. What strikes her isn't the metaphysics. It isn't the thinking substance, or the formless, or the philosophical scaffolding. What strikes her is something simpler and much more uncomfortable. She realizes she has been doing almost everything in her life from the wrong place, comparing her life to other people's, measuring success against external benchmarks, afraid almost every day that other people are getting ahead of her, thinking about money the way a person thinks about a finite resource that someone else might take. And this is the line that hits her hardest, almost completely without gratitude. For years, her father has died, her business is collapsing, her relationships are strained, and she sits on her bed that night in the dark, and realizes she has not, for a very long time, sat down and felt grateful for anything in her life. So she does something that night that sounds small. She gets out of bed, she walks to her kitchen, she pours herself a glass of water, and she stands at her kitchen sink and starts writing down on a piece of paper she has pulled from a drawer the things in her life she is grateful for: her daughters, the roof over her head, the fact that the heater is working, the fact that she still has legs that walk, eyes that read, hands that write, the friend who texted that morning, the fact that she had been able to feed herself a meal that day. Small things, almost embarrassingly small things. She fills the page. She gets out a second piece of paper. She fills that one too. And then she makes a decision that almost nobody in her position would have made. She decides she is going to do exactly what the book says, without arguing with it, without editing it, without modifying it for her own circumstances. Whatever the book says to do, she will do. She begins holding a clear mental image of what she wants. Not vague, not aspirational. Specifically, what she wants, she realizes, is to make a film that will do for other people what this book is doing for her. She has no money to make a film, no production company that isn't financially failing, no investors, no script, no team. What she has, the day she starts, is the same thing Sara Blakely had on her kitchen table in Atlanta in 1998. A clear mental image, a piece of paper, and the willingness to act on what is already in front of her. She starts with what she has. She makes phone calls. She talks to people. She reads more books. Wattles leads her to Hill. Hill leads her to a dozen others. She starts compiling, writing, reaching out to teachers and authors and speakers who have built careers on these same ideas without ever crediting Wattles for them. One by one, people say yes. By the end of 2005, she has filmed dozens of interviews with some of the most well-known self-help and personal development figures in the world. The film is released in March of 2006. It is called The Secret. On the surface, a film about something Rhonda calls the law of attraction. Underneath, almost a direct dramatization of Wallace Wattles' 100-page book. The film becomes one of the highest-grossing self-help products in history. The book that follows it sells over 30 million copies. Time magazine puts Rhonda on the list of the 100 most influential people in the world. Oprah devotes 2 consecutive episodes of her show to it. The combined revenue of the franchise crosses $300 million. But here is what almost nobody who watches The Secret knows. In the front matter, both the film and the book, Rhonda Byrne names her source. She tells you plainly that what set her on this path was a 100-page paperback called The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. She doesn't hide it. She doesn't soften it. She tells anyone paying attention exactly where it came from. And then she does something else. She makes The Science of Getting Rich available free as a downloadable PDF on her own website. Anybody who wants to read the book that changed her life can have it for nothing. The book that had been sitting on shelves in obscurity for 90 years starts suddenly to be downloaded by tens of thousands of people, then hundreds of thousands, then millions. Rhonda Byrne didn't get what she got because the universe was waiting for her. She got it because she made one decision almost nobody makes. She stopped arguing with the book. She read it. She did exactly what it said, every day, for long enough. Now I want to be honest with you about something. To keep this video short, I had to cut the story of a 52-year-old man with diabetes and arthritis who walked into a small hamburger stand in California in 1954 and changed how the entire world eats without ever having heard of Wallace Wattles either. His name was Ray Kroc, and what he did inside the McDonald's parking lot the day he saw what was happening, that single decision made on the body of a sick man in a circumstance that looked like the end of his career, is, in my honest opinion, the cleanest demonstration of Wattles' most underrated principle in the entire book. The full deep dive is on One Book Away, linked below. If you found this useful, Subscribe to this channel for more book summaries you can listen to in under 15 minutes. The Science of Getting Rich is in the public domain. You can read it for free anywhere online, but if you want a copy on your shelf, links to Amazon and Audible are below. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next one.